John. It's good to be chatting again. A lot of learners get caught up in grammar rules, which are important, but they often forget the value of everyday interaction.
That's interesting. I've tried that a little, like when I watch a show in English, I'll sometimes pause it and try to repeat what the actors just said.
Good thinking. It helps with pronunciation and intonation. And also, it exposes you to common expressions you might not find in textbooks.
Right. Because textbooks often teach you formal language, such as, "Good morning, how do you do?" Nobody actually talks like that.
Precisely. You need to hear how people actually speak to each other. I think podcasts like this one are useful for that reason. I'm honored, but finding a partner isn't always easy. Another thing you can do, I've found, is use language exchange apps. There are tons of them these days.
That's true. It can be hard, though, especially when you're worried about sounding silly.
I know that feeling. Think about it like this. Everyone makes mistakes, even native speakers. And I'd say people are usually understanding and appreciate the effort you're making.
Fair point. And also, making mistakes is how you figure out what you don't know. So it's a learning opportunity, right?
Exactly. And if you're unsure of something, don't be afraid to ask. If someone uses a word or phrase you don't understand, just say, "What does that mean?"
That makes sense. I've always been a little shy about asking. I didn't want to seem stupid.
I get it. But people are usually happy to explain. And honestly, asking questions is a sign of intelligence, not the opposite. What counts is showing you are willing to learn. Precisely! The more you practice using words like that in different ways, the more fluent you'll become. That's a good observation.
So basically, it's about finding ways to integrate English into my daily life. Not just studying grammar books, but actually using the language to communicate.
Exactly. And you can do that in so many ways. For example, you could try writing a journal in English, or listening to English music and trying to understand the lyrics.
Those are good ideas. I've been trying to watch more movies in English, but sometimes I still rely on subtitles.
That's fine at first. The focus is on training your ear. But eventually, try to wean yourself off the subtitles. You'll be surprised how much you can understand even without them. Definitely. And remember to be patient with yourself. Learning a language takes time and effort.
Oh, really? You are so right. It feels like it will take forever.
The important thing is to celebrate your progress, no matter how small it seems. Every conversation you have, every new word you learn, is a step in the right direction. That's awesome. See? You're already making progress. What's more, using idioms like "on the fence" makes you sound more like a native speaker. Sure, besides language exchange apps and podcasts, I'd recommend looking for online communities where you can practice English. There are forums, Facebook groups, all sorts of things. What matters is finding a community that suits your interests. Exactly. If you're interested in photography, find an English-speaking photography forum. That way you're practicing English while also talking about something you enjoy.
That's a good point. So you're learning without even realizing you're learning.
Precisely. And also, don't underestimate the power of simple things like labeling objects around your house in English. It can help you remember vocabulary.
Seriously? That's a good idea. I've never thought about doing that.
Yep, little things can make a big difference. And another thing, don't be afraid to make friends with native English speakers.
I see what you mean. Easier said than done sometimes.
That's true. But it's worth the effort. The main point is that having real-life conversations is invaluable for improving your fluency. Back quote, text.
So you were saying that daily conversations are key. I get that, but sometimes it feels a bit forced, Like, what do you even talk about?
I understand. The trick is to make it natural. Don't think of it as a language lesson. Think of it as, well, just talking. What do you talk about with your friends in your own language?
True, usually just everyday stuff. What we did yesterday, what we're planning for the weekend, complaining about work.
Absolutely. And that's perfect. You can do the exact same thing in English. The core of it is, the more you use the language, the more comfortable you become.
But what if I don't know the words for something? Like, say I want to describe this new gadget I bought.
That's a great point. That's where you can use circumlocution.
What?
Exactly. And plus, it helps you expand your vocabulary. You might discover a new way to explain something, or you might even learn the actual word in the process.
That's a good tip. I usually just freeze up and say, thingy.
We've all been there. But you know what counts is, you're still trying. I remember once I was trying to explain to someone that I needed a specific tool for my bike. I couldn't remember the word spanner, so I ended up miming tightening a bolt for like 5 minutes. It was ridiculous, but they eventually understood. It was mortifying at the time, but now I look back and laugh. The essential part is, don't be afraid to make mistakes. Mistakes are part of the learning process. No kidding! But nobody expects you to be perfect. And honestly, people often appreciate the effort you're making. As well, they may even help you find the right word.
That's true. I've had people correct me before, and it's actually been helpful.
Definitely. Another thing I find useful is to keep a little notebook with you. When you come across a new word or phrase, write it down.
Good thinking. I tend to forget things pretty quickly.
Precisely. Think about how you can naturally weave it into a conversation. Don't just say it randomly. Exactly, you're getting it. What's crucial is you're actively engaging with the language. Perfect! The core of it is, listen to how native speakers actually talk. Pay attention to the rhythm and intonation of their speech.
Yeah, I noticed that sometimes I understand the individual words, but I still have trouble following the conversation.
That's perfectly normal. It's all about getting used to the speed and the flow of the language.
True, and also all the slang and idioms people use.
Oh, idioms! Those can be tricky. They don't always translate literally.
Exactly. Like raining cats and dogs. What does that even mean?
That's true. It means it's raining heavily. The thing is, nobody really knows where that idiom came from originally. There are a few theories, but nothing definitive.
Interesting. So I guess the only way to learn them is just to hear them used in context.
You're right, and often you can figure out the meaning from the context. What counts is, pay attention to the situation in which the idiom is used.
Okay, good to know. Another thing I struggle with is phrasal verbs. Get up, get over, get by. There are so many.
It is. Instead of trying to memorize long lists, try to learn them in context, similar to idioms.
So listen for them in conversations and try to figure out what they mean. I like that. It takes the pressure off a bit. I believe what matters is you're making an effort to connect with people.
Exactly. And the more you practice, the easier it becomes. What's more, you might even start to enjoy it. It's all about finding ways to make it fun. Maybe try watching your favorite TV shows in English. I agree. And the only way to do that is to just dive in and start talking. Find a language exchange partner, join a conversation group, or even just talk to yourself in English.
Talking to myself? That sounds a little crazy.
It might sound crazy, but it can actually be really helpful. The core of it is, it gives you a chance to practice without the pressure of being judged. You're getting it. What's crucial is, you're making an effort to engage with English throughout the day, not just during designated study times. Consider it language immersion, even if you're not physically immersed in an English-speaking country.
Okay, I like that idea. And plus, I won't have to worry about embarrassing myself in front of anyone. Makes sense, so embracing the mistakes, that's key. It's easier said than done, though, isn't it?
It is, definitely. But think of it this way. Every mistake is a learning opportunity. I remember once, when I was in Italy, I was trying to order some water. I wanted sparkling water, but I completely butchered the word frizzante. I ended up asking for frittata, which, as you probably know, is an omelet. The waiter looked at me, completely baffled. I was so embarrassed. But then he smiled and corrected me. And from that day on, I never forgot how to say frizzante.
That's so funny. That's a good point. A memorable way to learn, I guess. I always worry that people will think I'm stupid if I get something wrong.
I see what you mean, but most people are understanding, especially when they know you're learning. What's crucial is to not let that fear paralyze you. The important thing is to keep trying. That sounds scary, I agree, but for example, there are language exchange apps where you can chat with people from all over the world. And also, consider joining local groups or clubs where people speak English. The key is finding a relaxed environment where you feel comfortable making mistakes.
That's a solid point. There's a board game group that meets near me. Maybe I should check that out. Really? Won't that be annoying for them?
Not necessarily. Most people are happy to help, as long as you ask politely. Say something like, "Could you correct me if I make any mistakes?" Or, "I'm trying to improve my English. Would you mind giving me some feedback?"
That's a good point. It feels a bit forward, but it's definitely direct.
It is direct, but it shows you're serious about learning. And besides, it can lead to some really interesting conversations. I remember I was talking to a guy from Canada, and I kept using the word quite in the wrong context. He gently corrected me, and we ended up having a long discussion about the nuances of English adverbs. Totally! And what matters is, remember that everyone starts somewhere. Even native speakers make mistakes sometimes.
That's true. What's more, I suppose it's about finding a balance between studying grammar and actually using the language.
Exactly. You need the grammar to build a solid foundation, but you need the practice to make it all come alive. It's all about finding opportunities to use the language in real-world situations. That's a great idea, but don't just passively watch them. The focus is on actively engaging with the language. Try pausing the video and repeating phrases you hear. Or, write down new vocabulary and look it up later.
So, more like a study session than just entertainment?
More like a fun study session. Another thing you could do is change the subtitles to English or even turn them off completely if you're feeling brave.
Turning them off completely? No way! I'd be lost.
I felt the same way at first. But trust me, it helps you to really focus on the sounds of the language. And if you miss something, you can always rewind. Say, when you're watching a film and a character uses an expression you've never heard before, like an idiom, write it down and then search for the meaning afterwards. Precisely. For example, the other day I was watching an old movie and someone said, "Bob's your uncle." Do you know what that means?
I have no idea. Bob is your uncle? No kidding. That's so random.
I agree, but that's what makes language learning so interesting. There are always new things to discover. What's crucial is to embrace the unknown and keep pushing yourself to learn more. That's, I see. The core of it is, language learning shouldn't feel like a chore. The essential part is to make it fun and engaging. If you're not enjoying it, you're less likely to stick with it. It's easy to fall into that trap. What matters is to find ways to make it relevant to your life and your interests. Certainly. And think about all the specialized vocabulary you'd pick up. You'd learn about engines, aerodynamics, race strategy. It would be like learning a whole new language within a language. Precisely. And what's more, you could join online forums or communities where people discuss Formula One in English. The key is to immerse yourself in the language as much as possible.
No doubt. I'm getting some good ideas now, Emma.
That's great! And don't forget the power of simply talking to yourself in English.
Talking to myself? Are you serious?
I am serious. It's a great way to practice your pronunciation and grammar without any pressure. Just describe what you're doing or narrate your thoughts. Like, "I'm making a cup of tea. I'm adding milk. Oh, I almost forgot the sugar."
That's actually kind of brilliant. Nobody is listening. Nobody can judge.
Indeed. And another thing you could do is keep a journal in English. Just write a few sentences each day about what you did or how you're feeling.
That sounds like less pressure than actually speaking to someone.
Certainly. It's a low-stakes way to practice your writing skills and expand your vocabulary.
Okay, so start small, be consistent, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. I think I can handle that.
Absolutely. And remember, it's a marathon, not a sprint. There will be ups and downs, but as long as you keep practicing and keep learning, you'll get there in the end.
I agree. Maybe I should set some realistic goals, like learn 5 new words a week or have 1 English conversation a day.
That's a good approach. What counts is to be specific and measurable. That way, you can track your progress and stay motivated.
Fair enough. And celebrate the small victories along the way. Every little bit counts, okay?
Exactly. And don't forget to reward yourself when you reach a milestone. It's important to acknowledge your hard work and keep the momentum going. I believe a little treat for yourself will make it more engaging too.
So you were saying that mimicking helped you learn.
Absolutely. It really did. It wasn't just about acting out words, but more about getting comfortable with the sounds and the rhythm of the language. Like, I remember watching a cooking show in Spanish, and I had no clue what they were saying about the ingredients, but I would copy the presenter's gestures and tone. Not immediately, but over time, I started associating those gestures with certain ingredients or techniques. What's more, it boosted my confidence to just try speaking, even if I sounded a bit ridiculous at first.
That makes sense. I think my biggest problem is that I'm afraid to sound silly. I overthink everything before I open my mouth. That's a good point. I guess I put too much pressure on myself to be perfect from the start.
You got it! And what I found useful was creating little scenarios in my head and practicing the conversations.
Say, like what kind of scenarios?
Well, think about common situations, like ordering a coffee, asking for directions, or even just making small talk about the weather. I'd practice these conversations out loud, even if it was just to myself.
I see what you mean. That's like rehearsing before a play.
Precisely. And another thing is to record yourself speaking. It can be painful to listen to at first, but it really helps you identify areas where you can improve, like pronunciation or grammar.
Oh my gosh, I don't know if I'm brave enough for that.
It's daunting, I know, but consider it a tool for self-improvement. It's like looking in a mirror. You might not like everything you see, but it gives you a clearer picture of what's really there.
True. So if I recorded myself, what would I even be looking for?
Well, first, listen for any pronunciation errors that stand out. Are you saying certain words differently than you hear native speakers say them? Are you using the correct intonation and stress patterns? And also, pay attention to your grammar. Are you using the correct verb tenses? Are your sentences structured correctly? It's all about being aware. What counts is finding a balance. Fluency is important for communication, but accuracy helps you avoid misunderstandings. The essential part is to keep practicing, even if you make mistakes along the way. Spot on, and what's really helpful is to find a language partner, someone who is also learning English or a native speaker who is willing to practice with you. No doubt, you can have conversations, ask each other questions, and give each other feedback. On top of that, it's a great way to make new friends and learn about different cultures.
That sounds like a plan. How would I even go about finding a language partner?
Well, there are several language exchange websites and apps where you can connect with people from all over the world who are learning English. Plus, you could also join a local English conversation group.
I see. That's really helpful. I'll look into that. I've also been trying to watch movies in English, but sometimes it's hard to keep up.
I hear you. Watching movies is a great way to improve your listening comprehension and learn new vocabulary. However, it can be challenging if the dialogue is too fast or complex.
That's the thing. I end up just reading the subtitles the whole time.
I understand. What I would suggest is starting with movies or TV shows that you're already familiar with, maybe something you've seen in your native language. That way, you already know the plot and the characters, so you can focus on the language. That's it. And also, don't be afraid to pause the movie and look up words or phrases that you don't understand. The important thing is to actively engage with the material. Totally! You can also try watching with subtitles in English at first, and then gradually wean yourself off them as your comprehension improves.
Good idea. So it's like training my ear to understand the language.
Precisely! Another thing that helped me was listening to podcasts and audiobooks in my target language. I could listen to them while I was commuting or doing chores around the house.
That makes sense. I listen to podcasts all the time.
So you can easily incorporate language learning into your daily routine. The core of it is finding ways to make it fun and engaging.
I agree. If it feels like a chore, I'm less likely to stick with it.
No kidding. Or you could try reading English language news articles or blogs about topics that interest you. Absolutely. And what's also cool is to follow English-speaking influencers or YouTubers who create content that you enjoy.
Wow, I hadn't thought about that. I watch YouTube all the time.
Spot on! It's a great way to immerse yourself in the language and culture. Just be sure to choose content that is appropriate for your level.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind. I've also heard that it's helpful to think in English. But that seems really difficult. That's so funny. So you're basically talking to yourself in English.
Basically. But it helps you get used to using the language in your everyday life. As well, you can also try to translate your thoughts into English. When you think of something in your native language, try to express it in English as well. That's true. And what's crucial is to be patient with yourself. It takes time and effort to learn a new language.
I know, but sometimes I get discouraged when I don't see progress. Fair enough away.
I get it. But what matters most is to celebrate your successes, no matter how small they may seem. Each new word you learn, each conversation you have is a step forward. Precisely. Think about it like climbing a mountain. You wouldn't start at the top, would you? You'd start at the bottom and gradually work your way up. That's awesome. Remember, the key is to make it a habit. The more you practice, the more fluent and confident you'll become. I understand. It can feel a little silly at first. But think about it this way. It's all about training your mouth muscles. You're not trying to become that person, but you are trying to get used to the sounds and rhythms of the language.
That's a good point. I guess I focused too much on sounding perfect from the get-go. True, valid. So what other kinds of scenarios have you rehearsed? You mentioned ordering coffee.
That's a classic. Anything you do regularly. Like, I used to work in retail, so I practiced common phrases for helping customers. Can I help you find something? Are you looking for anything in particular? Simple stuff, but it helps build confidence. Definitely. Or think about everyday things you talk about with your friends. The way I see it, practice describing your weekend, talking about a movie you saw, or even just complaining about the weather. For sure. And also, don't be afraid to make mistakes. That's how you learn.
Easier said than done. I get so self-conscious.
I know the feeling. But what counts is that you keep trying. What I did, to push myself a bit, was to go to a local language exchange meetup.
I've heard of those. Are they any good?
Absolutely. They can be great. It's a low-pressure environment where you can practice with other learners and native speakers.
That makes sense. I'd say the thought of talking to native speakers is pretty scary.
It can be intimidating, but most people are really understanding and supportive. And if you mess up, who cares? It's all part of the learning process. Plus, you might even make some new friends.
That's a valid point. I suppose I should at least check it out.
You definitely should. And beyond that, you can even find language partners online. There are tons of websites and apps where you can connect with people who want to practice their English and help you with your target language.
Interesting. So you're saying there are lots of opportunities to practice even if I'm not traveling or living abroad?
You really can. So it's better to expose yourself to authentic language as much as possible. What's crucial is to find resources that you enjoy. If you're bored, you're not going to stick with it.
That's so funny. I always thought the official way was the only way.
Oh my gosh. Far from it. Think about all the slang and idioms that are never taught in schools. You pick those up from real conversations.
That's a good observation. So let's say I'm watching a show and I hear a phrase I don't understand. What do I do?
Great question. Firstly, try to guess the meaning from the context. Often, you can get a pretty good idea even if you don't know all the words.
I see.
And also, don't be afraid to pause the show and look up the phrase. Write it down in a notebook with the definition and an example sentence. That way, you can review it later.
Good thinking. I've always struggled with remembering new vocabulary.
We all do. The core of it is repetition. The more you see and use a word or phrase, the more likely you are to remember it.
Yeah. I've heard about spaced repetition systems. Are those helpful?
Absolutely. They're designed to help you review vocabulary at optimal intervals, so you don't forget it. Apps like Anki are really popular for that.
I'll have to check those out. I've tried flashcards, but then I get lazy and lose track of them.
Yeah, flashcards can be a bit tedious. The essential part is to find a method that works for you. Maybe try using a language learning app that incorporates gamification. That can make it more fun and engaging.
Another thing I struggle with is knowing when to use certain phrases. Like, there are so many ways to say thank you in English.
That's valid. And knowing the appropriate level of formality can be tricky. Fair point. What I'd say is, when in doubt, err on the side of politeness. Thank you very much is always a safe bet. And additionally, pay attention to how native speakers use different phrases in different situations. Listen to podcasts, watch movies, and read books. The more you expose yourself to the language, the better you'll get at picking up those nuances.
I've been trying to read more. It feels slow, though.
It can be slow at first, especially if you're constantly looking up words. Try reading something that's slightly below your level. That way, you can focus on understanding the overall meaning without getting bogged down in the details.
Good observation. What about pronunciation? I feel like I'm always mispronouncing things.
Definitely. And if you can, find a language partner who can give you feedback on your pronunciation. It's always helpful to have another pair of ears. I remember one time I was trying to learn the word squirrel in Spanish, and I just couldn't get the pronunciation. Okay, it took me ages to figure it out. Precisely, it's about internalizing the patterns. For instance, you could listen to a simple weather forecast and repeat it. Not just the words, but the intonation. The way they say, partly cloudy with a chance of rain.
That's a good point. I never really thought about that. I always focus on the words themselves.
And also, think about the context. Learning phrases in isolation isn't as effective as learning them within a conversation. Fair enough. It's much more natural to say, "Hey, how's it going?" The way I see it, practicing simple greetings in different scenarios is crucial.
Such as?
Let's say you're at a conference. You could practice introducing yourself to someone new. "Hi, I'm Emma. It's nice to meet you. What brings you here?"
Makes sense. Keeping it simple and focusing on common scenarios.
For sure. And what counts is practicing regularly, even if it's just for 10 minutes a day.
I think I could manage that. So what about learning vocabulary? Is it better to memorize lists or learn words in context?
In my view, learning words in context is far more effective. It's all about seeing how words are used in real situations.
Take the case of reading a book.
Totally. If you come across a word you don't know, don't just look up the definition. Try to guess the meaning from the surrounding sentences.
And then look it up to confirm.
Indeed. That way, you're not just memorizing a definition, you're understanding how the word functions within a sentence.
That's great. What about when you're in a new country?
Well, another thing is to eavesdrop. I'd say carefully listen to snippets of conversations around you. You'll pick up on common phrases and expressions that you might not find in a textbook.
Fair point, like overhearing someone ordering a coffee and noticing the specific words they use.
Absolutely. The core of it is paying attention to the language that people actually use, not just what's considered correct. Yeah. Plus, don't be afraid to make mistakes. It's part of the learning process.
Oh, I'm definitely afraid. It's embarrassing.
No doubt it can be. But the important thing is to remember that everyone makes mistakes. Even native speakers. As well, find a language partner to practice with. someone who is also learning English, or a native speaker who is willing to help you.
That's a good point. I've been meaning to do that for ages.
On top of that, there are so many online resources available: language exchange websites, online forums, language learning apps.
That's definitely, I can see that. If it feels like a chore, I'm not going to stick with it.
Indeed. I feel like keeping it fun and engaging is essential.
So, going back to the mimicking thing, how do you choose what to mimic? There's so much content out there.
That's a valid point. The way I see it, start with things that are relevant to your life. If you work in customer service, practice common customer service phrases.
That makes sense. Focus on practical, everyday language.
You got it. The more you practice, the more natural it will become.
But what about more complex sentences? I still struggle with those.
Certainly, take the case of breaking them down into smaller, more manageable chunks. Focus on understanding the individual parts of the sentence before trying to say the whole thing.
I see, so almost like deconstructing the sentence. That's indeed, I always get those mixed up.
What matters is to practice using them in different contexts. Try writing your own sentences using those conjunctions.
I believe that's a great way to solidify my understanding. Easy to say, harder to do, but I get it.
It's all about stepping outside your comfort zone. Beyond that, practice different tenses. That makes sense, but you need to be comfortable using the past tense, the future tense, and all the other tenses in between. Correct. I'm going to go to the park tomorrow. I'm going to meet up with some friends. We're going to have a picnic. That's it. The essential part is to make it a conscious effort. Another thing you could do is role play.
Oh, I like that.
Valid point. Imagine you're at a job interview. Practice answering common interview questions using different tenses.
Good thinking. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? What are your strengths and weaknesses?
Correct. And what's also important is to pay attention to your pronunciation. Record yourself speaking and listen back to it.
Oh, I hate doing that. I sound terrible.
I understand, but it can be really helpful in identifying areas where you need to improve.
I guess so. It's just so cringy.
Furthermore, is to use a pronunciation app or website. There are so many great resources available online, such as the ones that show you where to put your tongue to make certain sounds.
That's amazing. I need to check those out.
I'd say you should. And what matters is to focus on the sounds that are difficult for you.
Fair point. I always struggle with TH sounds.
Oh, really? Many people do. That's where those tongue positioning apps can really help. The focus is on identifying your problem areas and working on them specifically. Okay, it's like absorbing the language's music. Take public transport, for instance. That's a gold mine.
You're so sure. Especially if you can handle the unpredictable conversations.
Indeed. And you learn the slang. For example, the other day I overheard someone say the train was packed like sardines. Correct. And it's way more colorful than just saying very crowded. The essential part is you remember those kinds of phrases. That's okay. Mental rehearsal, like when you're doing your grocery shopping. Good observation. And it gets even more fun when you start having little conversations with yourself in English. I do it all the time.
You're kidding. What do you talk about?
Spot on. And on top of that, it can actually help you solve problems. Sometimes, explaining something in a different language forces you to think about it in a new way. Oh, really? Take the case of cooking shows. They're full of regional dialect and specific culinary terms. What was confusing you?
Well, for starters, they kept talking about bangers and mash. I had no idea what they meant. Bangers. Got it. And then they used the word pudding for dessert. In my mind, pudding is always creamy and sweet.
I see what you mean. Pudding is a tricky one because it can mean different things. Sometimes it refers to a specific dessert, like chocolate pudding. But often, in British English, it's just a general term for dessert.
That's a good point. Context is everything. I guess that's why immersing yourself in the culture is so important for language learning.
Absolutely. It's not just about learning words, it's about understanding the cultural nuances behind them. What matters is, a phrase can mean one thing in a textbook and something completely different in real life.
So fair point. I remember I was once in London and I asked someone where the loo was. They looked at me like I was crazy.
Oh my gosh. Loo is a slightly old-fashioned term for toilet. It's still used, but it's not as common as toilet or restroom.
Oh, really? I would never have guessed. Also, I struggle with is understanding humor in English. Jokes often rely on puns or cultural references that I don't get.
You're not alone. Humor is one of the trickiest aspects of any language. The core of it is, so much of it is based on shared cultural knowledge and subtle wordplay.
Like when?
Let's say a friend told me a joke the other day that went something like, "Why don't scientists trust atoms? Because they make up everything." That's so funny. See, the joke is based on the double meaning of makeup. It can mean to invent something or to be composed of something.
Oh, I get it now. That's actually a pretty clever joke. But I would have completely missed it if you hadn't explained it.
Spot on. And on top of that, some jokes are just untranslatable because they rely on specific features of the English language.
So how do you learn to understand English humor? Just keep listening and hope for the best.
That's a good question. I think one thing is exposing yourself to as much English language media as possible. Watch sitcoms, read books, listen to podcasts.
That makes sense. The more exposure, the better. Additionally, I've been trying to do is pay attention to body language and facial expressions when I'm talking to someone in English.
Good thinking. Because communication is not just about words. It's also about nonverbal cues, like when someone raises their eyebrows or smiles ironically. Very indeed. Sarcasm is a minefield. The key is paying attention to the tone of voice. If someone says something positive in a negative tone, they're probably being sarcastic.
So it's about reading between the lines, as they say.
That's it. Take the case of someone saying, "Oh, that's just great," when something bad happens. They don't really mean it's great. They're being sarcastic. It is. But the important thing is, don't be afraid to ask for clarification. If you're not sure if someone is being sarcastic, just say, "Are you being sarcastic?" Most people will be happy to explain.
Fair point. Better to ask and understand than to miss the point completely. So, picking up on your eavesdropping tip, I've tried it a few times, but I always feel a bit guilty, like I'm invading someone's privacy.
I get that. It's certainly about being discreet. You're not trying to listen in on anything deeply personal, just tuning in to the rhythm and flow of everyday conversations. Think of it as language immersion in real time. That's right. That's a great example. Phrasal verbs are everywhere. The essential part is to notice them, write them down in context, and then try to use them yourself. Don't just memorize a list.
Clearly. I'm still struggling with some of the more subtle nuances, though. Like, when is it appropriate to use slang, and when is it better to stick to more formal language?
That's a tricky one. It really depends on the context and your audience. For instance, you wouldn't use slang in a job interview, but you might use it with your friends. The key is to observe how native speakers use language in different situations and adapt accordingly.
So, another challenge I've been facing is with understanding humor. I often miss jokes or sarcasm because I'm so focused on understanding the literal meaning of the words.
That's a common problem for language learners. Humor is so culturally specific. You need to understand the cultural references and the underlying assumptions to get the joke.
Sure, what's crucial is to figure out how to improve my understanding of humor. Any tips?
Absolutely. British humor can be particularly subtle and sarcastic. What matters is to get exposed to different types of humor.
I've also been trying to practice my pronunciation by recording myself speaking. It's a bit embarrassing to listen to, but it's helpful to identify areas where I need to improve.
Good for you. That's a great technique. It's all about becoming aware of your own speech patterns. Also, you could do is find a language partner and practice with them regularly.
I've been thinking about doing that. There's a language exchange group that meets at the local library. Maybe I should check it out.
Surely. What counts is to find someone who is willing to give you constructive feedback. And, of course, someone who is patient and understanding.
Good observation. I usually just write down the definition, but I rarely remember it later.
They're still a great tool. Plus, you can find apps now that make them even more interactive. What matters is to find what works best for you.
And also, I find it difficult to maintain a conversation when I don't know much about the topic being discussed. I just feel like I have nothing to contribute.
I understand that. It's tough when you're caught off guard. One thing you could do is prepare some general conversation starters that you can use in any situation.
Such as?
Things like, that's interesting, can you tell me more about that? Or, I'm not familiar with that, but it sounds fascinating. The focus is on showing that you're interested and engaged, even if you don't know much about the topic. I see what you mean. It's all about pushing yourself outside your comfort zone. What's more, remember that people generally enjoy talking about themselves and their interests. So ask questions and listen attentively.
I think that's accurate. Furthermore, is that I struggle with understanding different accents. I can usually understand standard American English, but when someone has a strong accent, I have a hard time. I can see that. I've been trying to watch more British TV shows, but I still struggle with some of the regional accents.
Totally. Don't be afraid to politely ask someone to repeat themselves if you didn't understand what they said. It's better to clarify than to pretend you understood and miss something important.
For sure, it's just hard to do that sometimes without feeling awkward.
I get it. Additionally, you could do is try to mimic the accent yourself. It sounds silly, but it can actually help you to understand it better. Exactly. The more you enjoy it, the more likely you are to stick with it. Consider joining a conversation club. It gives you structured practice in a relaxed environment.
That's a good idea. There's one at the community center, I believe.
Valid point. What's more, you will learn in a group setting, so you may be more comfortable practicing in front of many people at once.
So you were saying about getting the context. Okay, when you're trying out new slang, that's a valid observation. I learned that the hard way, trying to use some phrases I heard on a late night show at work. Didn't quite land, you know? Suppose you're talking to someone and you don't quite get a phrase they use. What's the best way to ask without sounding, well, clueless?
That's a really good question. I'd say instead of just saying, what does that mean, you could try something like, oh, I haven't heard it put that way before. Is that a common expression around here?
Oh, I love that. That's much more subtle. Also, I struggle with is keeping up with conversations when people are speaking quickly.
Yeah, that's absolutely a challenge. Personally, I've found it helps to focus on keywords, the words that carry the main meaning.
The main point is, it's almost like you're trying to pick out the important pieces of a puzzle.
That's it. What counts is understanding the gist of what they're saying, even if you miss a few words here and there.
Beyond that, what do you do if you completely miss something?
Well, sometimes it's okay to just nod and smile, especially if it doesn't seem crucial to the conversation. But if it ponders something important, you could say something like, sorry, I didn't quite catch that. Could you run that by me again?
Correct, like starting with how do you do instead of hey.
That's fair enough. And then you can gradually become more informal as you get to know them better. Let's say you're emailing a professor. You'd start with, Dear Professor Smith, not, Hey Professor.
That's so funny. I can just imagine sending that.
I know, that's correct. And the way I see it, a lot of language learning is about trial and error. You're gonna make mistakes.
Oh, for sure. I've made plenty of them.
It was a bit awkward, but everyone had a good laugh about it, and she never made that mistake again. So what I mean is, you shouldn't be afraid of making mistakes.
Good observation. It's all part of the process, I guess.
Totally. Plus, native speakers are usually pretty understanding, especially if they know you're learning. Plus, I found helpful is focusing on pronunciation.
Oh yeah, that's a big one. There are certain sounds that I just can't seem to get. Okay, I haven't tried recording myself. That's a great idea. It seems to me you'd hear a difference more easily.
What's more, you can use online resources like YouTube to find pronunciation guides.
Preparation is the key, like scripting it out in my head.
I've been there. We all have. The core of it is, communication is more important than perfection. Makes sense. For instance, instead of saying, "That's wrong," you could say, "I see it a little differently," or "I'm not sure I completely agree." Exactly. Think about how you'd react in your own language. Translate that level of courtesy, Let's say you disagree with someone's plan. You would want to soften the blow.
Beyond that, how do you handle those awkward silences in conversations? When the conversation just kind of dies.
Well, you could talk about the weather, current events, or something you have in common with the other person.
That's a fair point. The weather is always a safe bet, I suppose. It's funny how often people talk about the weather.
It is, isn't it? The key is that it's a neutral topic that everyone can relate to. For example, "Beautiful day, isn't it?" Or "Did you see that storm last night?" That's tricky. What's crucial is to be respectful and acknowledge that you're interrupting. You could say something like, "Sorry to interrupt, but..." Or, "Excuse me, could I just add something here?"
I see. It's all about acknowledging the interruption and being brief. Fair enough. So generally, clear conversations come from active listening. Fair enough.
For sure. The main point is active listening means paying attention not only to the words being spoken, but also to the speaker's body language and tone of voice.
It's kind of like trying to read between the lines.
You got it. To me, it's about showing genuine interest in what the other person is saying by nodding, making eye contact, and asking clarifying questions.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's all about being present in the conversation. I can see that.
Totally.
So going back to simple conversations, what about just talking about your day? It sounds obvious, but I often forget.
That's actually a fantastic idea. The key is the consistency. Just 5 minutes a day, describing what you did, what you plan to do.
Like, I woke up, had some coffee, and then I had to deal with a printer that was on the fritz.
You got it. And that "on the fritz" is a great phrase, by the way. See? You're already learning. It doesn't matter. The focus is on the language, not the excitement. Think about describing your commute. "The train was packed like sardines," or "I had to stand the whole way." That's so funny. You're getting the hang of it, and you can use those sentences later, talking to other people. Build up a bank of useful phrases. Another great expression, "clam up." See, you're a natural. The key is to just keep practicing. Don't be afraid to make mistakes.
Easier said than done. I still cringe when I think about that time I used salty at work.
Oh dear, well, we all have those moments. What matters is that you learn from it. Indeed, it's all about context. And that's why listening to real conversations is so valuable. You hear how people actually use language.
So, besides eavesdropping, in a non-creepy way, of course, where else can I find these real conversations? Valid observation. I hadn't thought of that. I mostly watch cat videos.
Plus, you could even try participating in online forums. Find a community related to your hobbies and start posting. That's got it, but remember we talked about not being afraid of mistakes? The people there will probably be happy to help you if you ask politely. Absolutely, it's all about finding ways to surround yourself with English, even when you're not actively studying.
Like, not a historical drama set in the 1800s?
Spot on! Stick to contemporary shows with realistic dialogue. Comedies are often good for everyday phrases. It's a classic for a reason, but consider Modern Family or Brooklyn Nine-Nine too. They're funny and the language is fairly accessible. Furthermore is to try thinking in English, even just for a few minutes each day. Describe what you're doing, what you're thinking.
That sounds hard.
I know, but the more you do it, the easier it gets. It's like training your brain to switch into English mode.
So I'm sitting here, drinking tea. I could be thinking, this tea is quite strong. I should probably add some more water.
Indeed. I'm really enjoying this conversation with Emma. She's full of great ideas.
Haha, you wish.
You're getting there. See, the core of it is to make it a habit. Incorporate English into your daily life in small, manageable ways.
I feel like the consistency is the bit that always throws me.
There you go. Leverage your existing habits. And don't be afraid to experiment. Find what works best for you. Happens to the best of us. The essential part is to start small and build from there. What's crucial is to celebrate your progress, no matter how small. Every new word you learn, every conversation you have is a victory.
I agree, it's just hard to remember that sometimes.
It is, but remember how far you've already come. You're using phrasal verbs at work. You're seeking out opportunities to practice. Furthermore is to find a language partner, someone you can practice with regularly.
Someone like you?
I am flattered, but I think you need someone who is learning as well so you both improve.
Valid point. I think there is a language exchange meetup at the library.
Oh, I love that. And even if it isn't romantic, it is a great way to make friends as well.
Another positive.
Well, I think that's a good place to wrap things up. So today we talked about incorporating English into your daily routine through simple conversations, using resources like vlogs and TV shows, and the importance of finding a language partner. Thanks so much for listening, everyone. See you next time.
Catch you later.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. So you've maybe spent ages studying grammar, you know all the tenses, but then someone asks you something simple in English, and poof, your mind just goes blank.
That feeling.
Exactly. So today we're moving past the textbook. We've dug into the sources to find, practical ways to bridge that gap between knowing English and actually using it easily.
Yeah.
Quickly.
Right. It's a real challenge, that gap. It's often about the cognitive switch.
Yeah.
Our mission here is to pull out those low-effort habits from the material. Things you can do without it feeling like heavy study.
Yeah, habits that help you build vocabulary and fluency almost without noticing.
Exactly. So you can get fluent automatically.
Okay, so let's really get into the main problem here, the one all the sources seem to hit on, that mental translation step.
The translation lag, yes.
That pause where your brain is like finding the word in your own language and then putting it into English. It's what really slows down conversations, right?
Absolutely. It kills the speed, kills the confidence. You're basically juggling two languages in your head while trying to have a normal chat.
It's exhausting.
It is. And the sources suggest that stopping that internal translation, just thinking directly in English, it's more achievable than you might think. Often starting with things that seem, frankly, a bit basic.
Okay, let's start there then. So the first technique, when I saw this in the sources, I thought, really? Labeling things around the house.
Sticky notes.
Yeah, like putting fridge on the fridge, microwave on the microwave, kettle on the kettle. It feels a bit like primary school. How is that different from just, flashcards?
That's a fair question.
Yeah.
And look, if you just stick the label on and ignore it, then yeah, it is just like a flashcard.
Right.
But the insight here is that it's about immersion in action. It's not passive. Every time you go to make coffee, you see kettle. You process the object and the English word together.
Ah, okay. So it connects the word to the actual thing in the moment you use it.
Exactly. Without you consciously thinking, okay, time to study. It makes the English word functional, part of your routine. It helps bypass that translation step for those common items, effortlessly.
So you're kind of making English necessary just to get through making breakfast. I see that.
Precisely.
Yeah, okay, taking that idea of low effort practice, but maybe moving it outside. Another tip that came up a lot was talking to yourself, narrating your day.
Self-talk.
I can just picture listeners thinking, won't I look a bit odd? Chatting away to myself, walking the dog.
Maybe a little, but honestly, it's incredibly effective for boosting your actual speaking ability, describing simple things.
Like what? Give me an example.
Like, okay, let's cross the street now. Oh, look at that red car. I was going pretty fast. Of course, where are my keys? Pocket. That kind of thing.
Right. Just narrating the mundane.
Yes. Because what you're doing, crucially, is forcing your brain to build full English sentences on the spot, with the right verbs, the right tense, instantly.
Okay, so you're practicing constructing sentences on the fly.
Exactly that, which is precisely the skill that gets blocked by translation lag in a real conversation. You're building the muscle memory.
So it's like a practice run in a totally safe space. No one's listening, no one's judging. You get to build the sentence structure without the performance anxiety.
You've got it. Building the architecture before the performance. Okay, so once you start building that internal comfort, that internal monologue, the next step is really ramping up the external input.
And the sources were pretty clear on this. Use technology, right? Basically, switch your whole digital world to English.
Yes, be quite aggressive about it. Change your phone language.
Yeah.
Set your GPS voice to an English one, British, American, Australian, whatever.
Your social media feeds, too.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Make English the default. This means you're constantly seeing and processing English passively all day long. Error messages, app updates, instructions.
Stuff you wouldn't learn in a class.
Exactly. Technical bits, casual bits. It all adds up.
Okay, so let's connect this constant input to, well, overcoming that moment of panic. You know, when a colleague asks you something unexpected at work, and suddenly your English just evaporates.
The freeze. Yeah. That panic happens because your brain's overloaded. It's trying to translate, formulate a reply, and manage the social pressure all at once.
So how do you fight that?
The sources suggest having some simple, pre-prepared, go-to phrases ready for common situations, like small talk about your weekend.
So like a script.
Kind of. Knowing you can just say, oh, I went hiking, it was great, really tiring but fun, although I did get stung by a wasp. Just having that ready, it buys your brain time.
Ah, okay. So instead of scrambling from scratch, you deploy a ready-made chunk. It calms things down. Feels a bit like a defensive move, though.
It is a strategic defense, but it works. It proves to yourself, see, I can speak English under pressure. It lowers the stakes and helps reduce that cognitive block next time.
Makes sense. Okay, shifting to how we consume information. The sources were really strong on this. Don't just read general news in English.
Right. Get specific. Read English blogs, news sites, forums, whatever, but focused only on your deep interests.
Like sports or coding or gardening.
Whatever it is, because the context makes you like a detective. If you're reading about tech, you'll just absorb words like glitch, update, game changer, maybe even buzzkill.
Because you already understand the topic.
Precisely. You deduce the meaning instantly from the context you already know well. You're not just learning random words, you're learning the specific English of your passion. It feels relevant, useful, immediately.
Yeah, much more motivating than just reading generic articles.
Okay, so we've covered getting input, getting specific, managing panic. But what about how you actually sound?
Right, the output. You can think fast, but if people can't understand your accent or rhythm easily, communication still breaks down. The sources really push for variety in listening.
Absolutely crucial. You need a wide range of sound models. The sources specifically mention contrasting, say, casual American chat, maybe like watching reruns of Friends, with something like the specific rhythm and sarcasm of British shows, like The Office UK.
Very different styles.
Very. But don't stop there. Find Australian vloggers. Maybe Indian English news presenters. This trains your ear for the real world, where you'll encounter all sorts of accents.
Listening is one thing, but how do we actually improve our own pronunciation? It's hard to get honest feedback, isn't it? Your friends might be too polite.
Polite feedback doesn't help much. This is where tech really comes in handy again. The advice is, don't just mimic. Record yourself.
Record yourself speaking.
Yes. Pick a line from a show or podcast. Say it. Record it, then listen back and compare it directly to the original speaker.
Oh, that sounds confronting.
It can be, but it's effective. And there are apps too. Things like ELSA Speak were mentioned. They give you specific phonetic feedback. They don't just say good or bad. They'll highlight if you stress the wrong syllable in, say, comfortable instead of comfortable.
Ah, specific technical feedback.
Exactly. That kind of targeted practice helps you fix those little recurring errors much faster than just general conversation practice.
That precision makes sense. Okay, what about making speech sound more natural? Idioms came up a lot. Things like spill the beans or hit the nail on the head. How do learners pick those up without sounding forced?
The same way you learn any vocabulary, really context and repetition. Pausing a comedy show or a podcast when you hear an idiom, maybe repeating it out loud, that helps.
So active listening and repetition.
Yes. Idioms are like shortcuts native speakers use. They signal fluency and, well, make you sound more natural. When you hear break the ice, you need to recognize it, understand it, and then eventually feel comfortable enough to try using it yourself.
Trying it out needs practice, though. Low-stakes practice. Where do the sources suggest finding that?
Online communities based on your hobbies are great for this. Sure, subreddits like Learn English have advice, but for actual speaking practice, interest-based Discord servers. Especially for things like gaming. The language there is super functional. You need to use terms like noob or OP for overpowered, or maybe res for resurrect.
To play the game effectively.
Right, you need to communicate strategy quickly. The need to get your point across often overrides the fear of making a small grammar mistake. It's very low-pressure interaction focused on a shared goal.
We've talked a lot about speaking and listening, but writing's important too for reinforcing structure. But that blank page, it can be intimidating. Fear of spelling, grammar mistakes.
Oh, definitely. Writer's block, but for language learners.
Yeah. The sources had a surprisingly simple fix, though. Just journal 3 sentences a day, on your phone notes even.
The 3-sentence rule. It's brilliant because it tackles perfectionism head on. A big essay feels daunting, but 3 sentences, anyone can manage that.
So just write something simple, like today I tried a new cafe, the coffee was kind of bittersweet, pastry was good though.
Exactly like that. What you're doing is automating basic sentence structure. Subject, verb, object in writing. That repetition makes those patterns more automatic, which actually helps when you need to speak them quickly later.
Ah, building muscle memory again.
Without needing an hour of dedicated writing practice.
And when you inevitably make mistakes in those sentences, what tools can help?
Well, first, see mistakes as data, not failures. Tools like Grammarly are good for catching basic errors as you type, sort of passively.
Okay.
But for more nuanced feedback, especially on phrasing, community is key. Services like LangCorrect came up places where native speakers offer free corrections on short texts. That gives you human insight into why something sounds a bit off.
Right, not just that it's wrong, but why? Okay, final area. Slang. Everyone wants to use it to sound natural, but get it wrong, and well, it can be awkward. What's the golden rule?
Observe first, use later. That's the main thing. Pay attention to how native speakers actually talk in shows, podcasts, or around you if you have the chance. Notice the casual greetings, what's up, not how do you do.
Listen and learn the context.
Exactly. And if you do try some slang and it falls flat, the sources say just laugh it off. Honestly, acknowledging a small mistake like that can actually build connection. It shows you're trying, you're engaging.
Because I'm afraid to mess up.
Not at all. Mistakes are how you learn context, especially with slang. Maybe you misuse a word like salty once.
Meaning annoyed or bitter, right?
Right. You use it wrong, someone corrects you, or you realize later, and you'll probably never forget the right context after that.
Yeah.
Same with regional stuff, like hearing I'm gutted in the UK.
Meaning really disappointed.
Yeah. You hear it, you learn it's British, you internalize it. Then you can decide if it's appropriate to use yourself depending on who you're talking to. Hear it, learn it, then use it carefully. Hashtag check outro.
Okay, so wrapping this all up, it feels like the big shift here is moving language learning out of the study box and just leaving it into your actual life.
That's the core message, absolutely. Tie it to what you already love doing.
Integrate it into your passions.
Yes, and consistency is really your superpower. Doing 10 minutes of these techniques every day, labeling, narrating yourself, watching a specific YouTube channel in English that's way more powerful than a long, painful study session once a week.
Small, consistent effort.
Exactly. And celebrate the small victories. The first time you understand a whole conversation in a movie without subtitles, or you finally figure out what that song lyric means, that positive feeling keeps you going.
You're building fluency through habit, really, not just sheer willpower.
Precisely.
So if all these techniques are about integrating English into your existing interests, here's a final thought for you, the listener, to maybe chew on this week. What new interest or hobby could you pick up starting tomorrow that basically forces you to use and consume English content exclusively?
Oh, good one.
Maybe it's a specific fitness program you follow online or a type of documentary series. Maybe learning a new technical skill like coding from English tutorials. Find something new where English is the only option.
Yeah, create that necessary immersion.
Exactly. Lean into that friction point. Make English unavoidable for something you want to do and just see how quickly things start to click.